feel like being a woman in Bhakti or in like this Indian traditions in general, like the sky's the limit, you know, you should be able to do whatever you feel empowered to do. And there will be setbacks, like 100% you will feel setbacks. But if you're never feeling setbacks in life, you are not doing something revolutionary, because it means you're following what's already happening, right? You just have to be willing to have that humility, to persevere with humility and tolerance and good intention. And I'm 100% sure that everyone has the capacity to shine and step into their full potential.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to join this Candid spiritual community to hear more conversations that will help you become happier, healthier, and more healed. All I want you to do is click on that subscribe button, because I love your support. I love seeing all the comments pouring through, all the love pouring through, and we're just getting started. I can't wait to go on this journey with you, whether you're a spiritual seeker or you're just curious about the topic. And we really hope that our conversations will provide you food for thought and inspiration for your own spiritual journey. So join us for honest, candid discussions about spirituality for soul's sake. Today, I am joined by an incredible person, someone I see as the future of Kirtan, because she hails from Australia, has shifted to New York City, and is teaching Kirtan, is sharing her beautiful voice with the masses. And I'm deeply grateful to be joined today by Premanjali. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. So happy to be here. It's so nice to see you in New York.
I'm happy to be here. It's an incredible place. And I just really am appreciating everything that you're doing in the space of sharing and teaching Kirtan. And I wanted to get stuck in on asking you about your move from Australia, where it seemed like you had a pretty good life.
Australia is beautiful. Like,
really?
At least the nature, the community, the culture, it's really nice. Australia, I grew up in a really beautiful small country town. So it was wholesome, but not the big city.
Oh, really?
And I think that was kind of one of the main shifting points when I graduated high school, was like, what else is out there? Like, I wanted to travel. I wanted to explore the Kirtan scene all over the world. And that's kind of how it started. It was like, let's go to Poland for the tour. Let's go to India for these festivals. And kind of with time, I think I was subconsciously looking for a new place to live, but it wasn't on the forefront of my mind. I wasn't thinking, let's go here to live here. I kind of tested out London for a little bit. That's how we connected. I was thinking, would I be here in London? And would I be here in India? And kind of it wasn't feeling perfect. So I was just kind of on the road every 3 months in a new place, go home, see my parents for a little bit, and then I would travel again. And it wasn't until last year in the winter, I came here to New York. I had a 6-week sort of gap in travel, and that was usually the case. You know, you've got these 6-week or 1 month periods. So it was like, let's try New York. I'd never been to the States. There's so much Kirtan here.
Right.
So I kind of like a shot in the dark, and I came with my sister, and it was just like, this is the place, you know. I loved it. I fell in love with the Bhakti Center and the temples and the Kirtan community and just the energy of the city. I feel like in New York, anyone you talk to will encourage you to follow your dreams, and the energy is very much there. Everyone you meet is doing some hustle and some shooting for the stars, you know. So it felt at that moment like the most impossible move ever. It was like 100 different things that could go wrong to make that not work. But it was like, I just thought, okay, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it into the universe. If this is meant to be, it will be. And, you know, one phone call after other, it was lining up, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, here I am. I moved in April, kind of more officially. I came with all my stuff, and only now in September, I finally got my visa. So
congratulations.
Yeah, now I'm here.
Incredible.
It's good. Yeah. So now I'm here. Lots of fun.
You happy here?
Yeah, you know, it's feeling really good.
Yeah.
It was definitely a shift. In the beginning, it was a lot of getting used to it. New York is a very, you know, intense place, a very different place than how I grew up in the beach and the rainforests and the beautiful community of New York.
You don't miss that at all?
Oh, I definitely miss it. I miss the beach a lot, yeah. But I feel that calling for something greater is kind of like keeping me here for sure. And that, you know, I went back in September. I was there for 3 weeks, and it was so nice to see everyone, see my friends and family. And we had a beautiful Kirtan festival there that I helped organize. And it was so wholesome. And somehow there was a moment where I was like, am I making the right decision? You know, like, should I just be here? There's still things to do. And kind of by the end of the 3 weeks, I still felt like, no, I still need to be in New York. Like, there's something pulling me here, even though I'm not 100% sure what it is yet. Like, it still feels good to be here. So
Very incredible, because like I see you as an example of someone that's young, that's following their ambitions and their dreams. And I think many people who are in their youth, they kind of get shoved down a hole that you need to be this way to be successful. And there's no kind of option apart from doctor, lawyer, or failure. You know, it's either you do something big in the corporate world, or you find it like, okay, well, you're not going to make it. What kind of made you feel brave enough or courageous enough? Like, if, say, for example, you're looking at the camera, there's a person watching you right now who's similar age. How old are you now?
23.
23. Someone who's 23 that lives in a remote part of the world, that has a dream to live in a big city or to pursue a dream that's greater than where they currently are. What would be like your main advice to that person?
Wow, that's such a good question. I definitely can't take the credit for this. I feel like there's so much attributed to just the community I grew up in, and definitely my parents and the mentors I had. Just always, you know, this New Govardhan community where I grew up, it was so open-minded.
Whereabouts is it in Australia?
In Australia, on the East Coast. So kind of between Queensland and New South Wales, there's a little country town called Mooloolaba. That's where we are.
Cool.
Beautiful, beautiful community. But yeah, it was just always this sense of, I actually was in Gurukul there for my whole education. So I never went to public school. I was always in this beautiful devotional school. And I think that really gave me the confidence to feel like I could do whatever I want to do, because that was just what was fed to me growing up. It was always like, yeah, like, you want to do it, you can do it, you know? And I feel like there was also a real sense of trust in, you know, when I would speak to people, they would believe me. When I would like try and communicate, people had your back. And that, so definitely a lot of it just came from that, this sense of like, yeah, I can take on the world, you know, like everyone's here supporting me. It's a beautiful community. And if I ever fail, I have a lot to fall back on. So it definitely wasn't just me. It was that big sense of security that came from that. But I would definitely say that even on top of that, there's definitely just a level of, I want to say delusion almost, where you just, I don't tend to think too much before I do things. Sometimes it's almost like,
it's a good thing sometimes.
Sometimes it's definitely got me in trouble as well. But there's a sense of like, okay, you know, this is where I see my life. This is what I want to do. And let's just throw myself in the deep end, you know, like, and it felt like if anything really goes wrong, I can always come home. And I can definitely say that things have gone wrong. I mean, I think you witnessed a lot of my journey in London when I first came there. And
well, a little bit from a distance.
Right. But it was a sense of, you know, what's it going to be like? It was a new city again. It was the first time I'd been sort of throwing myself in a Western city for a long period of time.
Did you think that London was going to be the place?
For a minute, yeah. I was like, you know, tampering with it. I mean, London has such a great community, as you know, and there's also that sense of encouragement and kirtan and the culture there. And I was like playing around with it. How would it work? Getting a visa and this and that, and you know, it didn't work out. It just felt like things weren't lining up, and yeah, like there was this initial sense of like disappointment, but I think the strength really comes from knowing that, you know, or believing in my heart that there is this higher plan for all of us, and that there is this eventual, like, you know, it's only time between where you're meant to be. So that really helped me a lot as well, as just feeling like, yes, between all these failures, there was always a silver lining. And it was very, very clear. Many, many times where I felt like, oh, I missed that. And it opened up this door for something else, which was, so I guess that sense of just continuing, even when it feels like, oh, it's just not working out. Like, I never really felt like there was a sense of giving up, I guess. It was almost like that delusion was so strong. It was just almost like, it's going to happen. Like, I'm going to get there, and it's just a matter of time. So yeah, that was always been sort of my mood, is like, you know, if you really believe in your heart that this is what's going to make you happy in life, and you know, it takes time to figure out what that is. I'm definitely still figuring out what is 100% like my purpose and where it's going to be. But at least that sense of knowing, you know, mentioning, you know, a doctor, lawyer, you have to get a degree. I never went to college. You know, many of my friends after graduation, they moved on to study and go further. And I guess I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I want to run my own business. And, you know, I always encourage you got to get as much experience as you can. So that's kind of been my goal, is let's just get experience. Let's live a little bit and just, fail and try and do things. And with that comes the knowledge of like how to get that next step further. So
it's so refreshing. Like when you speak, it kind of fills me with memories of my youth and just going, who gives a crap, just give it a go. If it doesn't work, what's the big deal? Like
right.
Things bounce back, especially with work and especially with trying to establish yourself in the world.
Yeah.
It's like a rubber ball. It's just like you can bounce it, and if it drops, it's fine. It'll just bounce back up again.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's something that, I guess as we get older, I don't know, I'm feeling like I'm getting older. I've got like this permanent mayo patch on my beard. Like it just, everyone thinks, something spilled on this. No, it's white hair. I'm getting old. And as I'm getting older, I'm becoming more and more cautious about the new choices I make. And I guess in one sense that's natural, because you kind of get set in your way and you decide this is the way that I want to live, and it becomes clearer for you how you want to navigate the world. And I guess that one of the constants that's been there throughout the whole process of growing up, that and now seeing a new generation growing up in the Bhakti and Kirtan world, is how their relationship with God has changed. Like before, when I first became a Kirtan person, someone that liked Bhakti, someone that liked spirituality, God was kind of a bit distant, and it felt like he wasn't really so personal. I feel like the young generation can talk to God in a bit more of a friendly way. Is that true? Do you think that younger people speak to God in a bit more of a...
There's definitely like that innocence. Like I was actually thinking back when I was younger, and it's almost just like, like, you see the deities, or you've been told about the spiritual tradition, and that's just what it is. That's what you believe, and the simplicity is there. Like it's very, that innocence comes very naturally. And then as we get older, it's like so many things get in our head, right? And it becomes more complicated. Like it's not as simple anymore. Like you question things, or you don't have that just genuine belief anymore that you used to, that 100% just sense of like, like Krishna is there, or God is there, the divine is there. And it definitely is like, that sense of reminder. But for sure, I think in the youth, especially growing up in Gurukul, or, for us that were kind of young kids like that, it was natural. It was just what you do. But you made a good point. It's like, as you get older, you're saying, now you have a family, you have 2 beautiful kids and your wife, and, you're settled kind of in London, even though you're traveling. And I guess like, I feel like when you hit that stage, there is a level of, you've got a good majority of what's going on. There. Yeah, you've set a foundation. Yeah. And there's always, even then, there's room for change. If you were to go, okay, we're
moving to Dubai.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's not like...
I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
But, if there was a calling, if there was a feeling like of needing change, but it's much more limited. Like you rely on many, many more parts fitting in to work it out. And I guess that was, again, when you were saying earlier how if someone wants to follow that dream, like this is kind of like, the easier time for me to do it. I was even reflecting recently how, for New York, when I came here, I had like high goals, high ambitions. It was like, I'm going to be making 10K a month, the first year I'm here, and I'm going to be, running my own business, and I'm going to have my office in Soho, and it's going to be,
still possible.
It's still possible, right? But I had this sense of like, if I don't achieve this in like my set time, in a year, then I failed. Like then I need to, reevaluate my whole life. And I had this moment kind of like 6 months in where I was like, realizing how long it takes, and like just how much it takes to just establish yourself in a new country and develop relationships and build community. And it was like this big, like, oh my God, like this is so difficult. And I've been very recently, like in the last few weeks, just reflecting that, like if I'm here in New York for the next few years, and if by the end of it, I come back with the same sort of way I came in, I mean, to be very, very transparent, I moved here I was here in the winter. I went back to Australia. And I'm always, my parents have always supported me a lot, but for the majority, I'm buying my own tickets. I'm trying to find a way to hustle and make it work. And when I was in Australia, I went back with like negative $500. I like missed a flight on my connection home, and my dad had to like send me the money. So I went back, and it was like negative $500. I was in Australia for 3 weeks. I didn't have my ticket booked to the US back again. And I was like unemployed. Wow. So it was this sense of like, how am I going to do it? And I don't know, I didn't feel that worried. Somehow it was just like, it's going to work out. If I'm meant to be there, it's going to happen. And I think when you fall into that fear of like, it's going to, it's impossible. It's kind of like a trap, but somehow I was like, it's going to be fine. And I had these kirtan courses planned in Australia. I was teaching like these kirtan workshops. So somehow they filled up and I made some money from that. And then I went and sold, like, I just went on a purge of selling all my, I'm moving country, right? I had my bed, I had, and I just like marketplaced it and I sold all these things and I paid back my dad. I bought my ticket to the US. I actually stopped in India first. So I was in India first. So I flew to India with maybe $500 left. I was like pretty happy with that. I was like, we're doing good. And while I was in India, my new iPhone 13 Pro Max, which was like my investment into my content creation in my business, found its way into the Ganga. And that was it for 2 months. I didn't have a phone. It was a really hectic thing. I mean, especially when, you're on social media a lot and you're making videos, and kind of that was my connection with everything. So I ended up moving to New York with no money. It was like maybe $100 or something. No phone. I had no phone. And I was staying in the ashram in the temple. So like fully sheltered by that Bhakti center community and, but with big dreams and big goals. And, in that moment, it really feels like I did this journal entry, I was thinking of it like, for an interesting story one day in my life when I'm successful.
This is for my book.
I was literally thinking like, this is going to be in my, like, when I first moved to New York and I had nothing and I didn't have a phone. And it kind of made me feel good about it. It almost romanticized the sense of, even though it was kind of, a low state in one sense, I romanticized it to feel like, one day when I've made it, this is going to be like, I started really with
nothing.
A very humble beginning, it was a very humble beginning. And even just in this last year, seeing so many amazing things change and, I'm feeling that growth, at least internally. And
I can see it just from my perspective. I've seen it from like the last 5 years and I'm seeing it happen. So
that's encouraging. Yeah. And it feels like, if anything else, like that was coming back to that point in the beginning. If I am just here in New York for 2 years and I leave with the same that I came in with, if I leave with my phone breaks, or if I leave with a sense of, no money again, and I go back to Australia and I restart my life or whatever, then that's cool. Then I was in New York for 2 years or 3 years in my 20s. And, one day when I'm older, I can like share those experiences with my friends and family. And really, I feel like this is a time of just let's learn, and if I'm not going to be in college, let's learn from the game of life and just like everything that gets thrown at you. So that's kind of my intention
so
right
encouraging.
now. It's just,
it's so encouraging and just so hope-giving. So thank you. I wanted to get into something that was controversial, perhaps.
Sure. I love it. Controversial.
I've seen in our spiritual circles and our Krishna Bhakti circles that there has been a shift for sure, that more women are taken to the stage, more women are getting the microphone, but we still live in a predominantly male-centered culture. And a lot of the leaders are male, a lot of even in Kirtan, like I've seen Kirtan festivals where there's like 20 men and then 2 women. And I'm seeing more and more the need for women to have a voice, because a lot of the people that are coming in through the Kirtan that I'm doing or the sharing that I'm trying to do in the world are predominantly women, like if not more than 50%, at least 80% are female. And so I wanted to ask you the challenges of being a woman specifically in the Bhakti circles, but just, whether you as a young woman have experienced, whether it's challenging. I might be just throwing this out and be like, what, maybe it's not a problem. Maybe I'm just like manifesting in my own head. No, I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was, I think it's interesting because, as I mentioned, I grew up in this Gurukul, in this devotional school, and actually really for the majority of that, it was always, we do kirtan in the mornings, or we do this puja in the mornings, and it was always the girls.
Always
like,
girls.
It was 100%. That's what I grew up with. It was like the girl gang, And if a guy was to lead, it was like, oh, the guy's leading today, like go them, But like it was always the girls. And I remember actually very clearly realizing that kind of as I got older, like actually, wow, like it's mostly guys that are leading or like out there. I mean, we can kind of count on our hands all the amazing female singers that are like very present and in the public eye, whereas there's so many unlimited like male singers. And I definitely think that because of that upbringing in New Govardhan, again, it was open-minded. It was I never felt a sense of being a woman to be anything different than being a man. It was just, that's just who we are. And it wasn't until I started traveling, actually, where I started realizing, whoa, like people have different ideas, you know, or especially in India, you know, this culture does root from India. And in India, there's a very, very deep tradition of, you know, how men are meant to act and how women are meant to act. And I think when you take it back to the Vedas, when you take it back to, you know, hundreds of years ago, you know, it was beautiful, but we lived in a very different day and age then.
Totally.
So it kind of worked for then. But now, you know, I do see that there is a bit of a overflow sometimes of the times have changed. We're in the West, you know, and things are there, but there's this sort of attachment to the Vedic way that things are meant to be that still comes through. And yeah, I've definitely 100% gotten in trouble for being so, I don't know, Australian, open, just like kind of laid back, like, you know, this is just how I am. Yeah. And people get triggered by that. I've seen it where, you know, like whether it's what I'm wearing or whether it's how open I'm being or how confident I am to like dance on stage or be in front of a crowd, like it definitely makes people feel uncomfortable.
Wow.
I've experienced that for sure. And I've been in, you know, situations where, you know,
You've been in India or you're in the West?
In both, actually. Wow. When I was traveling around, just seeing different communities, every community has its flavor, you know? And for sure, yeah, in the West, I've definitely felt it, sometimes more than India, actually, which is interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I actually really felt like a very strong desire in me because there was that, again, you know, coming back to that sense of community, it just really like, it's who you are. It's made from how you grow up. And I somehow have that confidence to like be able to question, you know, and it doesn't have to be in a aggressive way, but just to question like, why are you making me cover my head? You know, we're in the West, like this is what we do in India, or why is it that you feel uncomfortable with me wearing this? Or why is it? And a lot of people don't like that. It's, you know, it makes them feel uncomfortable. They like to just kind of tell you what to do. And
it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. I've heard that before as well. And I kind of actually took it upon myself. You know, it was something I felt very passionately about and still do feel really passionately about, that any girl should have the same confidence as any guy to do or believe and follow her dreams just in the same way. Yeah. And that, you know, it really comes from the dialogues we're fed when we're growing up, or the things that people tell you, like, yeah, you should be this way, or women are meant to be meek and humble and quiet, or whatever it is. And that, yeah, like actually no, like we should all be able to have a voice and speak and say what we feel is needed. And yeah, like I felt like that. There's been a few girls in my life that I felt like, yeah, like I want to take them under my wing. And it's just like, you like can also do whatever you want to do. You know, if I want to be a female entrepreneur, if I want to move to New York City and start a business and, you know, be front facing, like you can do whatever you want. You know, the sky's the limit. And that shouldn't necessarily affect your bhakti or your you know, practice of spirituality. That there's such a you know, there's a real big gray area where it's fine, you know, where you're like, actually it's not black or white. Like you really can live a life as a bhakti practitioner. I mean, even here in New York, I am at the Bhakti Center, which definitely helps. But yeah, like we're doing kirtan so regularly. It was so nice. We had the kirtan program last night. And you know, we have our sadhana in the morning where we wake up and we're chanting, and these things are all going on behind the scenes. You know, people, actually, I think that's sometimes people just don't know you. You know, right. They just see what they see and they make their assumption, and from that spot judgment. Then you're just in that category. And I was laughing with a friend actually because recently I have been facing, you know, some opposition to my social media and sort of the way I present myself, and there's been, you know, like a lot of reflection on my part of, you know, how can I improve that, and how can I, you know, for the people that I really genuinely care about. Some people tell you something and it means something, but when other people say something, that people that are important to you, you know, you take it to heart. So I've been trying to reflect on how to, you know, change that, but then also, you know, how can I still be true to myself? Yeah. That, you know, what is my intention? Actually, I think that's really the end of it, is what is my intention, and how can I present myself in a way that I know that, I guess I've always, to put it like that, I've always never really cared too much about what people think of me. And that does help sometimes, but at the same time, you do have to care about sometimes what some people think of you. So, that's been a learning curve, but definitely in that sense that, yeah, like you can definitely be authentic to yourself and you don't have to fit in that social norm of what people say you need to do.
Yeah.
You can still have that voice and have that power to want to present and speak and be open. And yeah, I feel like being a woman in Bhakti or in like this Indian traditions in general, like the sky's the limit, you know, you should be able to do whatever you feel empowered to do and take those steps. And there will be setbacks, like 100% you will feel setbacks. But if you're never feeling setbacks in life, you are not doing something revolutionary, because it means you're following what's already happening, right? So
right.
that's part of it. You just have to be willing to have that humility, to persevere with humility and tolerance and good intention. And I'm 100% sure that everyone has the capacity to shine and step into their full potential.
It's amazing. I mean, just hearing you speak gives me hope, because I've recently been a father to a daughter, a little girl, and people always ask me, what's it like having kids? And I'm like, yeah, that's nice. But then when they ask me what's it like to have a daughter, it's it's quite moving, because I just see women totally differently. I think until you have a baby girl, I mean, this is just for me personally, maybe for other people it happens in different times, you just see women totally differently when you have to think, my baby girl's gonna have to figure out and navigate this world as well. And so you observe women in a way of, yeah, it's almost like you see them all as someone else's daughter. You see them all as someone else, and they're having to navigate all these different challenges that as a man, genuinely speaking, I don't feel like we have to actually go through that much. You know? It's
a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier in one sense. And so, yeah, especially in spiritual circles, I really, really want that my baby girl, she can navigate the world in as much ease in one sense as possible, and to get the same opportunities that I've received. Like, you know, someone, say for example, living my life and doing it as someone in the female body, I think it'll be harder. Like just traveling completely on your own. People are just like, oh yeah, like just that person's got no stability. Right. It's not that.
Oh my God, the amount of times I've been told you just need a husband. I'm like, right. No, you don't. Like,
that's the point. You know? That's the point.
Yeah, I know, it's very true. I mean, definitely when it comes to travel, that's something, religion or no religion, it's just, unfortunately, the state of the world is like it often is, that women are in a more vulnerable position. It just happens, especially in India or like different third world countries, like you just are faced with more danger. Naturally, people will look at you more as a target. And yeah, like I've definitely experienced that, where you just have to be super, super alert and aware to protect yourself. But like, having said that, it doesn't mean it should stop anybody, and that there's a way to do things. You know, you have to be safe and all of that, but there's a way to do things. And within the sort of, you know, Bhakti tradition or the kirtan, you know, we're talking a lot about kirtan. I feel like there's so much, there's certain people and so much sort of this mood recently of, you know, actually, yeah, you're right. Like women should be on the stage and can do these things. And there are, you know, certain people that have like encouraged me in that way a lot. And I really hope to be someone who can also continue that thread of like encouragement that, you know, if other girls want to come forward and lead kirtan, or if they want to follow some dream that's kind of against the grain, or they want to move country and all these things that, like, you know, I want to be a voice for them too. It was actually really eye-opening for me, just seeing that, you know, I've always felt like I have a voice and that I can speak and that people will listen and trust and understand what I'm saying. And it wasn't until like really recently that I realized actually a lot of people don't speak, you know, actually even just like domestic violence or abuse that women suffer. Like it's very, very, very common that people don't open up about these things. Yeah. And I think it's the same when it comes to even just a small interaction where it's like, oh, maybe, you know, you can't lead kirtan because you're a girl. I mean, I've been told that before.
Whoa. Where, I have been told in the West?
In India. But it happens, you know, it does happen. And you know, that if that's the narrative you're being fed and that's how you were always grown up, then it just seems normal. It just seems like super scary to stand against that because that's your sense of normal. But that, yeah, like, you know, it's not. And that, like, you know, we actually can, you know, encourage and empower people just through discussions and association and, you know, putting it out there that like, hey, I'm doing it. Like you can also do it. And even if it's a little more difficult, like in your situation or this person's situation, like you can do it, you know, it is possible. And that, you know, this, again, you know, we all have the same, I wouldn't say we all have the same opportunity. I'd say definitely people are faced with different struggles, just naturally, the way they're born, the body they're born in, the country they're born in. But that sense of in the internal world changing, that confidence changing, that sense of empowerment changing, the bhakti growing in your heart, you know, in that same way is 100% possible for everybody. So
yeah. What's interesting is like how you're doing it in your nature, which is this spot judgment. I'm sorry if it's completely wrong, but I see you as a very social person,
right,
an extroverted person.
Yeah, definitely.
And sometimes it can be portrayed that all women have to be like that, and all men have to be like that to be successful. Like if you're not doing something that's got a voice and it's projecting on people and it's you know doing something in a loud way, then it's not powerful. But I think there is also beauty in spirituality that's done quietly as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And not all men or not all women have to be extroverts. I think that's sometimes projected.
Yeah, that's
all
a good
women
point.
have to be really like this and you know da 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 da. But it's also nice and I think it's like what I'm thinking about is when it comes to my daughter is how is she first, what's her nature? And if she is someone that wants to be in the world, of the world, have a voice, be in front of a microphone more often than not, then here's an example. Go and spend some time with Premanjali auntie. Where she's in New York City, go and spend like 2 weeks with her and just see how she lives. But if she's also like someone that's quiet, that's cool as well. And it's just navigating that and knowing who you are, knowing what is it that what are your deepest heart desires, and finding people that are living that in authentic ways as well. That you can shadow, that you can look under.
Yeah. I guess to clarify, like from what I was saying, because it does, you know, it does come across. I am extroverted.
I love that about you. You should be who you are.
Yeah, but that I guess what I was leaning towards is that actually the root of it is that every person or every girl and every boy should feel like they can follow their dharma, their purpose, their sense of what fulfills them. Yeah. And that I guess not everyone may be able to voice that to the people that it needs to be talked to or the people that it needs to be discussed with. So that my goal was more like to be a voice for those people, not that they all have to have a voice and that they all have to stand up and start a revolution. Yeah. But that's, you know, if they are, especially actually for the girls out there that are more shy, that just want to, like, that wouldn't necessarily be willing to like get up and be like, hey, this isn't fair, you know, like that they shouldn't have to do that, but that, you know, that there should be a voice for them. And that's something I've always wanted to do. And that's, it's really just all about what makes you feel fulfilled, like what makes you feel so happy in your day in and day out, that you are like nourished and taken care of and your purpose is defined. And that's the goal really more than anything else. And that will be so different for everybody. But that, like that, there shouldn't be any hindrance for you reaching that. But not that you need to, not that everyone needs to be super up the front. A lot of people like to, you know, my sister is also a good example. She's definitely an empowered leader, but we're definitely the you know, the introvert extrovert sort of balance. For sure. And
that's probably why we haven't spoken much, you and your sister and I. She's more introverted. She's
a little more introverted, we definitely balance each other out. She like grounds me, and like sometimes I guess I help her like get out of her comfort zone. But it's everyone has their flavor, and it's just about tapping into that, to reaching your individual full potential. I guess that's the goal. And it's been really wonderful. Like I never really saw myself as a teacher growing up, because I don't know, I felt like I just had so much to learn. I wanted teachers. I was on the hunt to find, you know, kirtan teachers or just like mentors, gurus. And it was only really through just requests, I guess, like people saying like, hey, can you teach me, or can I learn from you? And slowly I started teaching more kirtan, and it was so nice to really see people start off with this sort of like, I get so many students that start off with this like really small, sweet voice, and they're kind of like really shy to open their mouth, and like slowly you're just encouraging them, like you can sing, you know, and you can share your heart. And I guess the reason I love so much, I was that kid. I used to annoy everybody. Actually, I was such a terrible singer when I was a kid. Really? I was like, you know, I was in Gurukul, we had like a singing kirtan group, and my teacher literally removed me from the group because I just always did my own thing. I could never follow the same melody. And I
had the same experience.
Really?
I was playing. I had piano lessons, and you have to go and take a piano exam after
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I used to play, and then one time I just got fed up with it, and so I went into the exam. I just played my own thing, and the teacher the examiner just looked at me and said, "That was really nice, but that was not the piece of music that was in front of you." I was like, "Okay, then bye." That was the last time.
Right, I like that. I mean, it's funny. It's like you can kind of see there's a consistent sort of pattern, even when you were a kid to now. Like the same habits are there, and it's just your personality. But yeah, and I was that kid that we had this little white school bus van, and it would fit 15 to 20 of us in it, and it had this little like speakerphone thing, and I used to it must have been like 7 or 8, and I would every day on the way home, I'd take the microphone and just be singing, the mic, and all my friends would be like, "Oh my God!"
Premanjali.
Literally, and I had this little bike. I'd ride around the community, and I'd be singing while I'm riding, and everyone was like, "Oh, stop!" Literally, my friends will tell you about it. It was just I couldn't sing, but I was so delusional and just not even, it was just I'm gonna get there. It wasn't a sense of it would never happen. I was so 100% sure that I'm going to get there, that it was just, I was willing to share even when it wasn't. I was actually just last night looking at some of my old kirtan videos that I was sharing on Instagram, and I was cringing. I was like, oh my God, I actually posted that. I really thought that was cool. I thought I was the moment,
I feel that even now, man. I'll watch something, I'm like, oh no.
I know, it's we're always our biggest critic, right? Yeah. But I can definitely see that growth, and it just comes from experiencing it and doing it. And that's always what I tell my students is I started, and often my students are already so much better than I was when I was there. So I'm like, you are going to make it. All of you can lead kirtan. All of you are going to find your voice. And we all start somewhere, right? And it's fun to see that even if it was kind of always a thread, to see that growth of that thread of desire sort of manifest just through all the experiences that I've been through. It's that confidence. And I wanted to mention, I was thinking about this yesterday when we were talking, you invited me to come on the podcast, and I was so excited. I was thinking, Radhika has really been you have been someone that has encouraged me so much in my kirtan journey. And actually, when I came to London, we were talking about this last night, right? I didn't know anybody. I literally didn't know a single person. You were the only name. We met briefly in India, and I kind of knew, Radhika. And you really encouraged me that, in Mantra Lounge community there, it was at the time. And I remember actually we went to Leicester for this kirtan program, it had been years ago in 2019. And you were like, okay, you're going to sing, one of the chants. You're going to sing one of them. I'd never done it before. It was literally my first time I'd ever sung in a public preaching program event. I never did that in Australia. I never really at that time, I'd never done it. And I remember the whole drive to Leicester, I was like, what am I going to sing? How am I going to present it? How am I going to do that cool talk before when you explain the mantra? And I remember just being so nervous. And you encouraged me, and you gave me this whole introduction. And somehow that really empowered me to feel I can do this. And I just remember feeling really good about it and feeling this was such a start. And from there, it was we went to Oxford for that 4-hour kirtan, and I don't know, I've just always really felt you played a really big part.
You've got a really good memory. I don't remember.
I guess for me, it was my London, But all of those memories were so encouraging, and I very much took those experiences from London and went back to Australia and went, let's do a kirtan program. Yeah. Let's start a thing here. And that's kind of where I started feeling more confident and let's do this. But you're one of the people that really encouraged me.
I see it as part of my service to the world is not only to give and to share, but to encourage others to give and share as well.
Right. I really feel that with you.
Yeah, I think that it's important. To be honest, it's only because I was given that as a younger as well. When I was young, then I had a lot of people that basically encouraged me to do the same. And so I'm deeply grateful for my mentors, my elders, the people that have shown me a lot of love. And I guess that, I just want to encourage you as we close off this episode, just to say, keep being bold, keep being brave, and keep doing it humbly. And I'm just really proud of you. And I think that you're bringing a voice to so many. Girls is one thing, but you're giving so much love and appreciation to divinity and God through your voice. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing that. I think it's really powerful.
So much, yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's so wonderful. I'm so grateful. And again, we can only kind of share what we've been given. We can only give what we have. I think all these experiences that have nourished us, it allows us to give back to people. And you know, every time a certain association is so powerful, but every time we get to hang out, I always feel so nourished and just inspired and like, yeah, like.
It's because you're an inspiring person yourself. That's why. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to appreciate each and every one of you sticking around for this episode. I hope it was useful. I hope you found that it was empowering, especially if you're someone that wants to lead kirtan. And whether you're in a male body, female body, that's irrelevant. But if you are looking to lead kirtan, here's someone that could teach you. Here's someone that I think would be really awesome to. I don't know, have you got capacity for more students?
Yeah, definitely. It's always.
She's saying yeah, then she's going to message me like, what the hell are you doing?
No. It's really wonderful. I mean, I do one-on-one classes now. I'm looking into starting more group classes, but I also have an online platform with pre-recorded courses. So for people who maybe don't have the capacity to meet, you know, one-on-one every week, they can do it in their own time.
What's the website? How do you find out?
Learn Kirtan. LearnKirtan.com. Yeah.
.com. Wow.
Yeah, or on Instagram, Learn Kirtan.
Amazing.
Yeah, people can
join. Taking a business idea out of my mind.
Inspired.
Anyway, thank you so much for doing it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys on the next episode for Soul's Sake. Give this episode a share. Drop it a comment. Send it to a friend. Send it to a neighbor. Get this conversation going wide, because every opportunity to share spirituality, every opportunity to empower someone else is an opportunity to serve. And if we can all just add a little bit of that service mentality into our lives, I think that we'll all be happier individuals. So sending you all lots of love. See you on the next one. Peace out. If you enjoyed this podcast, you're sure to appreciate my conversation with Janavi Harrison, where we delve into the crossroads of spirituality, progress, and relationships whilst I was in India.
Creativity and being artful is something that everyone has and everyone can access. And I think it's more about, again, connecting to that deeper place within ourselves of intuition and playfulness, a sense of lightness, you know, which can be quite hard in life. There's a lot of things to feel heavy about, but we are much more like that naturally as children.